So I listened to the grand jury, somebody else today, and this is why my YouTube channel, well, yesterday, the one I posted yesterday with audio, which I did upload to Rumble this morning, but that's why my channel got a strike on it. And they said it was my first strike, apparently because I haven't had a strike for 90 days. Otherwise, it would have been my third, and they would have deleted my YouTube channel for what they have said is medical misinformation. No, it's not. It's not medical misinformation. It was testimony from the grand jury. You can go to grandjury.net or grandjury.com, and it's posted there. Reiner Flumick has all of them posted in German and English. The easiest ones to find or get to are the ones that are on Odyssey, I found. They're very long, but these are testimonies. There's a judge there, and this, so people aren't just saying this. These are scientists, these are doctors, depending on the day. These are experts of history. And the one thing all these experts do have, which I respect these experts because they do have the education, but they also can put their science away and step outside their box, which we see so many that cannot do this in healthcare and science. But they can do it. They step outside and realize there's a greater power of all of this. There is a creator, and they're able to look at it from that vantage point. What upsets me the most about all your professional organizations is their stupidity of not being able to step outside their box. Not being able to even consider the spiritual aspect. Let me make something very clear here. The science, you could look at it as the belly of Satan against God. It is in total opposition to God, all of the sciences, because they have been operating on something wicked for a long time. It's been rooted in something wicked. And if you go back to the Bible, anybody that wants to call me crazy, as I've said before in other videos, I don't care. It's totally rational to put this together if you pick up the Bible. The tree in the Garden of Eden, God gave Adam and Eve paradise, gave them paradise. But he said, don't take from this tree. Don't take from the tree of knowledge, because with it comes good and evil. Well, and they took from it. So they fell into sin, lost paradise, and the rest is history. It's where we're at now. But that same serpent has always been getting around. Eugenics has still been being taught. They just changed the definitions. It is. It's this reason why in the past year, the CDC changed definitions of things. That's what they do. That's what they've done in the education system. They did it to the baby boomers. This is all in the grand jury testimonies. These are people that know the history. It's their expertise. This is your whole life history of everything you've been lied to about. And the spiritual component is one of those areas where we've been lied to. Because there is something greater, and that the war that's taking place, it's not the Russia and Ukraine one, but it's the spiritual one, the one that's always been going on. And I would say the biggest ones fighting against the true creator of all this is the science. Total opposition, total. It's the reason they want to go out of their way to they leave God out of everything. It's why the healthcare system is falling into such wickedness. But your science itself is a religion. It is. It is a religion. Whether the scientists themselves know they're part of a religion is a different story. Likely not. Just like many of your educators have just taught what was passed down to them. But many of the people from the Holocaust, the real wicked ones that were part of the eugenics, they got away. They never faced any justice. And everybody knows there's people that got away from that. But some of your biggest scientists that were involved in that were helped out of the country. They went into other countries and they continued their work because somebody protected them. People in globalist places protected them. And then they just change the terms. And then nobody thinks they're being taught eugenics, but really they are. All of your funding, all of our tax dollars, all of their funding, just like Nancy Pelosi now saying there's going to be $22.5 billion. You know, going to science. No, there should be nothing going to science. Nothing. Because all they've been doing with our tax dollars is working on their eugenics programs. It's all about their goal with climate change, with abortion, with everything, has been about lowering the population. Why? Well, it's simple, because God said go multiply. So the opposite of that, it's going to say no. It's why your science that pushes certain medical treatments the past 2 years is the same science that is pushing the global warming and climate change BS, and is part of the World Economic Forum. All of the agencies have been captured. This is why YouTube took my video down, because they said it was medical misinformation. No, what my question to YouTube would be is, where are you going to be? You're on the wrong side of this. So anybody that's pulling down videos that are actual testimonies, that is not, I would not want to be on your side. I really wouldn't, because you know what? The serpent loses in the end. And I'm not saying that just for, to be, flippant about it. I mean it. The serpent, that's what this war is at. That's where it's at. It's always been. But everybody's been conditioned to think, though, there's no God, or there's, whatever, I don't care about. I mean, it's like, step outside your thinking completely. You have to let go of everything you were taught and relearn history. That's what you have to do. But science itself is a religion. Eugenics is a religion. And science is a religion. It's why it's in opposition to God. So any mathematicians, any science that's trying to direct you to where God is with codes, or using mathematicals to turn letters over to see the real secrets of the Bible, stay away from that. Stay away from it. The Bible talks over and over again about the witchery and sorcery and all this stuff to stay away from, even to wearing beads. Yeah, beads. Think rosaries. That's what it reminded me of. It's in the Bible. I'll read that in a minute. But your mathematicians in the grand jury, they talked about how, like, your mathematicians, even if some of them don't know it, it is part of a religion. Because if they try to put whatever their gift is for math or whatever gift they have to the Bible, they will mess it up. Here is why. Because the knowledge is part of good and evil. So even if that science or mathematician isn't necessarily evil, they too have been led astray. So if maybe, I don't know, General Flynn, who has appointed people to run in certain states, if he's pushing anybody that may be a mathematician in your state, you might want to rethink that, because that may be leading people astray into this whole, like, let's uncover what the Torah means using math and numbers. No, they are the people that will least be able to understand the true creator of where we live, because it takes being poor in spirit. Meaning it takes being humble, and none of your experts of science are humble. They don't. They want to put all of these false doctrines of their mathematics or their data and their statistics to the Bible. You can't. You know why? Because God was never going to let them. There's a reason God wanted no knowledge. Now, clearly we live in a world where we've had to be educated, but we have to recognize that something is wrong. As it was said in this grand jury, by testimony I listened to earlier today, this gentleman had talked about how that the science itself is a religion. And then they had also, the judge, I think it was the judge, had asked, what has the science actually solved in the last many decades? And none of the people that were on the panel, people that were giving testimonies, could say. They again, it's what I've said. They've treated symptoms, but really we have more drugs because it serves pharma. We have more testing. That's why they constantly go for your annual test, go for your annual this, over and over. But they never have any cures, because they haven't. Because all of your money has been going to serve their agenda of lowering the population. So for the people at the very top of that, even though the useful idiots of the Ivy League schools think they're going along with something that's right, they're not. They're just being useful idiots. For those people that do worship their science, it is a religion. So I would suggest focusing on the true, real God, because science is not it's a false religion. That's why it's rooted in all these Greek gods. And even your mathematician goes back to Greek mythology stuff. It doesn't mean that all your mathematicians are knowingly worshiping something wicked, but what it was rooted in, what they're in, it doesn't mean they're wicked. It means that they've just been, like many other people, taught wrong. So I'll give people the benefit of the doubt there, because I think there's many people in the sciences that have good intentions, just like me as a nurse had good intentions of wanting to help people. But it's been an industry that's been rooted in wickedness, going all the way back to that tree in the Garden of Eden. Which is why eugenics, if you look it up, it's a tree. So I was reading something about mathematicians, and this is about like deductive rationality, but it talks about Greece here. It talks about how in the first stage, situated in time, in the Greek of Pythagoras and Euclid of Alexandria, mathematics used deductive rationality to demonstrate theorems for the first time. Previous to the Greek epoch, several types of algorithms, I hate algorithms, and mathematical relations were known in Egypt, India, China, and Babylon. And then I had, and then it went on to say, but the deductive demonstration of mathematical theorems, such as theorems of Pythagoras, I don't know what that is, or the theorems which appear in Euclid's Elements, had not been developed. As from Greek mathematics, deductive rationality was incorporated as a fundamental characteristic of mathematical language. So I had read this article by a mathematician who was, it was years ago. He died in 1971. I don't remember his name, but his wife had said that he did believe in God, but because of the field he was in, he did it secretly because he would be shamed otherwise. So don't listen to science that's going to tell you we're going to lead you to God. No, they're going to lead you to Satan. That's what I would say. They're going to, because they're in opposition of God. It's why it lines up with the Bible. I've said this. So here's some interesting things to take away from the Bible, why I keep mentioning that wicked science goes all the way back to the beginning. Genesis 2:9, and out of the ground the Lord God made to spring up every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life was in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Genesis 2:17, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it you shall surely die. Well, that is what happened. That is what happened. Then Eve was charmed by that serpent, because the serpent is stupid, but the serpent is cunning and conniving. And that's what it's done throughout history. It's a wickedness spirit. Now the serpent was more crafty than any other beasts of the field that the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, Did God actually say you shall not eat of any tree in the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden, but God said, We shall not eat of the fruit of the tree that is in the midst of the garden, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. But the serpent said to the woman, you will not surely die, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. What does education do? Education is the epitome, of marinating in greed, because a kid gets into an Ivy League school and they think, oh, they're great, because they're going to be told they're an expert because they're in that Ivy League school, and yet they're going to be brainwashed by it. They're going to come out of there different than when they went off. And I don't mean in a good way. And then it becomes, it's all about money, of having all these degrees, and all those degrees brainwash people. But besides, it's all marinated in expertise. In order to find God, you have to be poor in spirit. That's what it takes, poor in spirit, being humble. That's why I said there's very few. There's some science experts that I have great respect for because they can step outside the box of their science, but most people can't. They've just been so led astray and brainwashed. But just like in the days of the creation at the beginning, it's the same thing, the very same thing. The serpent tricked Eve, and then they fell into sin, and the rest is history. We've all fallen into sin, and we've all been manipulated by that serpent, because on TV it tells you the science is, oh, it's experts of this and expert. No, all they've been doing is working on their same programs they have from the beginning, which of course Satan would want to lower the population. That wicked spirit would want to lower the population. It's what abortion's about. It's what climate change is about. It's everything our tax dollars, when it comes to science, COVID, all of it goes to these universities and these expert schools. No, they are involved in stuff even though the students don't know it. It's the reason why they won't just let them research anything. Whatever that wickedness at the top, those families, and whatever it is they worship, they control what the universities can study. Romans 5:12, therefore, just as sin came into the world through one man, and death through sin, and so death spread to all men because all sinned. So see, it was never supposed to be that way, but that serpent got casted out of heaven and has been at war with God ever since. And it uses you and I, and it manipulates us, and that's how it tricks people. And it gets in it. That's why all of your institutions have been captured. They've been captured by something wicked. It doesn't mean the students or the teachers and all of them know it. But if they had enough smarts, they'd step outside all of that education and realize you've been lied to about so much has been kept from you, and you need to think on a bigger scale, a spiritual one. If then you have been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things that are above, not on things that are of this earth. For you have died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you will also appear with him in glory. Put to death, therefore, what is earthly in you: sexual immorality, impurity, evil desire, and covetous, which is idolatry. That was Colossians 3:1. Timothy 6:10, for the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. So true. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs. Yes, they have. So that's just a small bit of evidence for why the science is in opposition to God. If the science will not put their science away to get to know God, then don't follow anybody that's using science to try to bring you to God. They will not bring you to God. You don't need science or anybody to do it. Just talk to God. He hears you. He's always listening. But It takes many times having to be poor in spirit. Be humble. I think most people can be humble, but most of your people in science can't, which is why they have a broken connection with God. They will not win. They won't. The serpent loses. So YouTube, you will lose because you're following the side of a serpent.